the next panel, which talks about mainstreaming the LGBTQ community and participating in this very, very interesting deliberation would be Onir. Onir, as many of you know, is a filmmaker who created this beautiful piece called My Brother Nikhil, based on the life of Dominic D'Souza, starring Sanjay Suri. This was one of the mainstream Hindi films in which the issue of AIDS and same-sex relationship was addressed, and that too way back. Congratulations to Onir, would always be due to him. And of course, he's a much awarded filmmaker. He has a total number of lucky 13 awards. Ashok Rao Kavi. Ashok Rao Kavi is an Indian journalist and one of India's most prominent LGBT rights activists. We welcome you, sir. And he is a regular contributor to various publications all around the world, where he takes on issues concerning same-sex relationship, gay rights, and HIV/AIDS. We welcome Ashok Rao Kaviji. Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi. Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi is a transgender rights activist, a film actor, a Bharatanatyam dancer based in Mumbai, India. We welcome Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi. She is, in fact, the first transgender person to represent Asia Pacific in the UN in, well, 10 years back, 2008. And at the assembly, she spoke of the plight of sexual minorities. And moderating this show is Professor Niladri Chatterjee. He belongs to the Department of English, University of Kalyani, West Bengal. And felicitating the panelists and the moderator, can we call upon Dr. Vikram Sampath. Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi. The moderator, Professor Niladri Chatterjee. Onir. And Ashok Rao Kavi.
Hello. Yes. Okay. Well, what a wonderful afternoon. Thank you all, those of you who have made time to be here. This is going to be a very special panel, and I think a historic panel, of course, because I'm sure we are all aware of what happened on the 6th of September of this year, the landmark Supreme Court reading down of Section 377. And I think, which is what makes this panel such an important one and such a relevant one, because this panel has got direct relevance as to, you know, what we think about identity, what we think about gender, what we think about sexuality. And here with me to talk about are three people who have had years and years of experience working in the field. And what I would wish to do is sort of generally ask general questions, and also at some point we are going to also take questions from the audience. I would want to perhaps start with Ashok, and I would really want to, and also this is a question that is meant for everybody, so anybody can pitch in at any point. And this is a general question. Where were you when the 377 verdict came through, and what was your initial reaction, your first gut reaction when you heard that, you know, homosexuality has been decriminalized?
I was in Bombay because I was very superstitious when the previous Justice Singhvi judgment went against us. I was in Delhi, and a lot of us fainted and a lot of us cried. So I thought I shouldn't be there for this judgment. So first was a huge sigh of relief that after 25, because the first article that I had written about Section 377, which was British law introduced in India, The first article that we had in Bombay our magazine, was in 1991. So since then, we have been fighting this. So the first feeling was definitely of a huge sigh of relief, but the next was really concern and anxiety. Because we are talking here of communities, not one community. LGBT are many communities. And these communities have been criminalized over the last 100 years. And they have no concept of how now society will treat them as equals. What is the backlash coming? Already there's a backlash coming. And how we are going to engage with society and the government. I don't see the future as bright as a lot of others are seeing. And I'll explain, but at the moment I hand it over.
So, Oni, first reaction.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon to everyone online, because I think we're online being watched. I think it was actually very similar to what Ashok said. Last time I was in Goa airport, and I ended up planning to go to Delhi to celebrate, ended up crying at the airport. And this time I was...
This is the 2013 verdict.
Yes. And this time I was home, very scared and nervous. Everyone telling, be positive, things will work out. But I was like really skeptical, and there was this lots of television outside waiting, to start, to know what, and I was really apprehensive. And when it hurt, I just went numb for a while, but it really, for me, the first thing was my mother and father coming and hugging me. That was incredible.
First reactions?
Okay, so as Ashok said, we all were together in 2013. And 5th of, which month, Ma? This, 6th was the verdict. 5th evening I land in Delhi because there was some traditional community gathering, and my guru was there, and there was some issue about me. Of course, I'm the biggest issue always. So I said my poor guru would be tortured by all the hijras over there. So I said, don't worry, I'm coming. So I landed. And as I got into the car, I get a phone call from Republic Television, Arnab's team. And they said, we need you today evening because tomorrow is the verdict coming. I said, what the hell? Means it literally, I said, why I'm over here? Because even for the transgender verdict also, I somehow landed up in Delhi. And this...
That was in 2014.
Yeah, 2014. And now 2018, I'm again in Delhi when this verdict is coming. So I got all the gods, right from Mahakal to Tripur Sundari to Mahakali to Dakshineshwari, everybody in one row, as being Acharya Mahamandaleshwar sitting, da-da-da-da-da. I said, what is going to happen? The second thing, what I thought, call Lawyers Collective Anand Grover. I called him and he said, what do you think, Lakshmi? I said, I think we will win. Then he said, okay, just think that. I said, yes, we will win. There is nothing that, And of course, I went for the drama and I landed up on television that evening. Of course, now being into the religious person, so all the sadhus and all the important saints were criticizing me that how you can take support on this thing and all that. I said, my religion doesn't discriminate anybody. The foundation is there. And in the morning, 6 o'clock, I still remember when it came out as a verdict. I was surrounded with all the possible channels across, and I started crying. I said, oh my God, though we had the transgender verdict, but Section 377 was just so not to be there. We had all the rights, and they wanted to make us nuns, which was not legally right. I didn't want it to be a nun. And nun, it's good to be a nun, and who desires to. And even I'm an Acharya Mahamandaleshwar, but my religion says that I can marry. Kinnars can marry. So for me, it was I was relaxed. Yes. The soul got its own relaxation.
Yes. Now about the slightly less celebratory area about the reservation. So therefore, exactly what are the fears that you have now? Where do you think the discussion is going now? Because I seem to be rather concerned that there seems to be some kind of a short circuitry directly into marriage. that seems to be the automatic way to go. But surely there are many, many other concerns. What would be your concerns right now? And again, this is a question for all the panelists.
Every law of heteronormative society, where there's a binary, man and a woman, will have to be challenged. And it's going to be a huge problem. For example, I do know that there was a discussion whether the right to marriage should have come along with this judgment. But there was a discussion within certain ministries that it would actually throw this judgment behind. There would be problems in this judgment if the right to marriage, all the other things came on board. I'll tell you why. Suppose, along with removal of Section 377, which is actually a law that made us criminals, if that was removed, then we become equal citizens of this country. If after that, they just offered, okay, marriage laws, but under which law will we get married? Even, for example, the Muslim person-in-law will never accept us. Then the Hindu, I think, will only come under Rakshas Gandharva marriage. Even the special marriages...
I would like... But the
Could
Hindu...
you just complete?
Even under the Hindu Special Marriages Act, the Special Marriages Act, which is a very secular act, under that also, the marriage is only between a man and a woman. So there also the binary has been introduced. Although there have been very progressive judgments in India, like for example, there is a judgment of the Madras High Court, which is now called Chennai, of course, where a marriage between a Hijra, Kinnar, Aravani, with a man, is taken as valid for inheritance, for so many things. So that's very progressive, because Kinnars of this are born sexually, male-born sexual minorities, as we call them. So it's already certain things have happened within our judicial system which are positive, but there were big barriers to it. For example, there is a law against surrogacy. That means, or adoption. If you are a man, they will not allow you to adopt a girl child. But if you are a gay man, they will not allow you to adopt a boy child. So you can't adopt a girl child, you can't adopt a boy child. So who do you adopt? You know? So there were issues that would have come up. And therefore, what we know is that there were very clever game was played by the state and the government. What they said is, we are not going to touch any of those things, which I call the embroidery that heteronormative society has built up. They are going to just test what Justice Singhvi had said, that is this a constitutional judgment? And that is the main crux that people have missed, that the judgment said that Justice Singhvi's judgment was unconstitutional and doesn't fit into the framework of the Indian Constitution. And for me, that is a very big step. I now again hand it.
I always have a problem when I think that why does equal rights mean, adapting everything which is a part of heteronormative way of life, because a lot of it is questionable. Having said that, as a person, I believe that other people who do choose to want to get married have the right. I am not the one to judge them. I just question the entire practice of what. And having said that, I feel that when you look at be it religion, I think traditionally even Christianity does not allow, but churches in different parts of the world are celebrating it. Nepal has been celebrating Hindu marriage for the last, 10 years nearly. And I feel that why is religion being perceived as stagnant? That also needs to change its way of how it accepts people, just like temples need to let women come in. So I feel to give it that space that it will never change is also is problematic. We need to start questioning a lot of practices which comes in the garb of religion, which are very patriarchal and upper class, driven rules that society accepts and practices and perpetuates.
So, reservations about the verdict?
No, for me, there is no reservation about the verdict. The verdict is a beautiful verdict. It is Section 377 has come down for people who have consensual sex. What I do within my bedroom is my bloody problem. And I recently, last evening, I came from Keshav Suri's and Cyril's marriage. As Acharya Mahamandaleshwar, I presided and I did the wedding because I believe, according to the scripture, even Gandharva Vivaha or Vivaha is do Atmaon ka milan. And the Hindu Marriage Act it says do vyaktiyon ka. So technically, if you go,
gender neutral.
yeah, it's gender neutral. But for that, you have to exercise it and go to the court. No. Now, where is my validity? You tell me. So, and at one point, I really agree of Onir that why I want to be as what the men and women, how unromantic, you know, they marry, they produce kids, they fight. No, I'm chill what I am and I'm enjoying with it, you know. Why we have to be a copycat doing everything? And then after we want to marry, after we want to have adoptions, whoever wants to do that, well and fine. Even I have adopted, even I'm in a relationship, well and fine. But then there is so many things which is coming up. And the saddest part, you know, we are killing our own movement in India at present, like how the casteism is got in between. I don't remember from when I was a child and when Ashok Rao Kavi and we all started this fight, it was never that I was Brahmin or Ashok was from some other caste. Now people are making the LGBT movement so politically driven, so socially. It is not about our rights. They're pinching at so many other things which was not at all necessary. We as community, Ashok Mama, when we met at what garden? Maheshwari Garden, we had all the caste, all the creeds, all the religion. We all used to sit together and play around. We never had that kind of a situation. But I'm scared that only with one verdict, so many things, I wish that we, कहते हैं ना हिंदी में एक कहावत है कि मेरे घर को आग लगी मेरे चिरागों से, that I burnt my own house with my own lamp. I wish the coming generation understands that.
Moving on to the way in which the media has reacted to it. It's been very interesting how I have been going through the magazines and I seem to notice that love seems to be a word that is being used more instead of sex. So it's right to love, love is love, loving couple. Yeah.
Can I
Love
say it? And
wins.
for me, it's sorry. For me, it's a real worry when they bring in love. I that way love my dog too, you know. But that's not the point. Section 377 was specifically about sex. Yes. It says that penetration is enough evidence to put you in for 10 years. So anybody there's a very clever narrative going on to desexualize the homosexual movement.
Thank you.
You know, and this desexualization is actually going to cost us a lot of other things. Why, for example, did all of us talk of marriage? Because heteronormative society has got a method. Why marriage was put in there? For example, very simple pensions, very simple tenancy laws. I don't know whether you in Calcutta have tenancy laws, but in Bombay, there's a tenancy law.
And also who to nominate in life insurance policy.
Not just life insurance, simple. There was a call for me from Mahindra Holidays, and they said, we are offering you and your wife a holiday in Goa. I said, wonderful, but I don't have a wife. I got a male partner. She just banged the phone down. So you see that we have been marginalized very cleverly. I always think Hindu society is extremely clever. It doesn't do anything. It outcasts you carefully. You go for a temple arti, and if you're a single man or woman, the arti, the archana thing always misses you. It goes somewhere else. and it's not there. It's a very clever society. It's much more cleverer than other societies. And therefore, we people have a very tough task in front of us. The most visual and the most honored, it's a paradox, are the transgender. The most invisible and the largest in denominator are people like me and Onir, you know, who look like everybody else. We are totally invisible. I think we're floating somewhere in the undercurrent. how do we get our rights? Vak, I thought 2 lectures before on feminism and the courtesan were mind-blowing. You know that the goddess of speech is called Vakya Devi, you know. And the biggest stigma in Hindu society is the contract of silence. The widow has to keep her mouth shut. We have to keep our mouth shut. And that is why today when I speak, it's a revolutionary act. As a homosexual, whenever I speak, there is a first shock. Then the secondly, do you exist? How many of you are there? That has been asked in the National Human Rights Commission. How many of you are there? When I said between 32 and 38 million, the IAS officer just went into shock. And this has happened to me. I was on the technical research group of the National AIDS Commission when one of the most wonderful Director Generals, Prasada Rao, was there. And he asked me how many should we budget for? Because the AIDS program, prevention program, STI program for Kinnar, for homosexual, bisexual men, needs a budget. That's the way a government operates. So when I told him the number, he said, where will I get this money from? So we had to keep on boiling down that figure to the most ridiculous figure that is quoted in the Supreme Court. It's my sin. It's 2,35,000. That must be there only in Howrah. You know? So what I'm trying to say
And
is,
also there's a percentage, apparently 7% to 8%. And you
Exactly.
think, where did they get that figure from?
that figure I could tell you, but it would just make everybody laugh. You know how we had to keep on reducing the figure, and we took out things like ultimately the men who had more than 15 partners in a month were supposed to be high risk. That also they could not decide. So they got some ridiculous survey done by USAID, which seems to have a lot of money to do these things, and they got 15% are actually male sex workers who have this number of partners. On that basis, the government extrapolated it to the whole country. That was only done for 2 districts of Maharashtra. I'm telling you these sort of things. And we have to negotiate as gay men all these things. For the last 20 years, that's all I've been doing. And if many of these things happening in the Supreme Court, you can come and beat me up too, because those are my figures.
Anir.
I'll just, when Ashok was talking, I was thinking of something that I recently experienced. A group of us from the film fraternity were traveling together, and it was the last day in Austria, and everyone was having dinner, and there were 10 of us, and everyone was suddenly talking about their life stories, who has run away and got married, someone's divorced, everything was happening. And they all became close friends or were friends, and I suddenly realized that, everyone was being asked, and then I was being skipped, and nobody would ask me that, what's happening in your life? Is there someone? So this whole thing of invisible, I always, I feel loved, whatever, but I also feel invisible constantly. That nobody, like if I go to a party, my friends, they have kids, everything happening, but no one ever asks that, are you seeing someone? It's really I have to make an effort and say, listen, I am seeing this one. Can I get the person along with me? But
otherwise, we don't want to know.
Exactly. Again,
we don't want to know.
Also, we don't have sex.
Yes.
Just like what it started with, So that is something I feel, and my status in all my social media, just like Ashok has been speaking. Today, someone asked me on Grindr, why are you here? I said, I am here with my photograph, with my name, identity, because I'm single, I'm gay, and I refuse to be invisible. That's the reason. And it's always been that I don't like to be bracketed constantly as gay filmmaker, but I accept it because there are too many people who are silent.
Yes. Mainstream media's reaction to the verdict?
Even I'm invisible. I'm the most visible one. But the stigma is so strong. We have layers of stigma. My visibility adds more stigma. Means even from the technical word of gay with the HIV program was men having sex with men. To get out from that bracket and having a transgender specific project also was a big tough fight for us. Getting ourselves budgeted. We said we are not men. The state doesn't have the right to choose my gender. And for the media, whether it is, if you see serials, films, whichever language, we are considered to be only a object of mockery. Before walking up to the podium, I told Onir, you should make a beautiful film about the Hijras, about the Kinnars. Though the religion says we are demigods, according to the religion, Mahadev and Parvati has given us the right to marry. Lord Buddha, who has Buddha dosh. Buddha is, I don't know which planet in English, but we are known as the caretaker of it. There is such a high, means even can you imagine with the media, now the Kumbh is coming, 2019, crores of rupees have been put in. I'm the head of the Akhada, Kinnar Akhada, which we established. Over there also, at times, but now the sensitivity is increasing. But then there are people, educated people, knowledgeable people about the religion who want to differ what is written in the text also. To just wipe out my identity because I'm a Kinnar, because I'm from the sexual minority. And that's the saddest part, because somewhere the other, before this panel, somebody was speaking that even we would have wanted the cultural independence which we didn't create for ourselves. We are still somewhere or the other, slaves in the hand of this so colonial rule and the education system. That we being such and of course what you said about patriarchy, even religion is made patriarchy. And that's the saddest part. And what the society today which we see is so not literate about their own culture. We listen to these all political leaders who don't know ABCD about the culture, and we believe them. We believe in the agencies who want to propagate something which is not ours. All the fake things. And we are fighting with it.
Again, I go back to Ashok, and I would like to ask you about the way in which your work has changed over the years, in the sense that, when you began working and the visibility of homosexuality or sexual diversity as an issue to now, and the difficulties that are entailed in sort of running an NGO, and also, the very, very contentious problem of funding. Do you now see that as a result of this verdict, do you think that it's going to change, the things are going to change for the better as a result of this verdict?
The NGO that I head and I co-founded, the Humsafar Trust, started as a male sexual health agency. But over the years, now for example, this year is the 25th year, 2019. Humsafar Trust's major achievement is it has survived. And it is now we are working across the rainbow of LGBT, because it is not possible to isolate yourself in a society that is so interlinked. 80% of homosexual men in India are married to women. Yes. If you do not look at the issues that go between the two genders, how women are so oppressed that they cannot talk about their relations with their homosexual husbands, and the homosexual husbands call themselves bisexual that time. They may be, I'm not saying they're not, but they become a bridge to the infections to pass on HIV and STIs to their wives. If you, sitting here, ever go to any hospital, could be in Calcutta, could be in Bombay, you will see that men go to the sexually transmitted infections clinic. It's called STI clinic. Women go to reproductive tract clinic. They don't have sex. They only reproduce. Yes. You see? Now, these sort of things have to be coolly, we have to pick. And it is for gay men. For example, it is a Humsafar Trust which started with the Family Planning Association of India to work with the wives of gay men. which others have not. A lot of hijras also, before they become transgender, are married to women. Not, I didn't say all. That's what I'm saying. Quite a few. Yeah. So I'm mentioning that whole paradigm. So automatically our work shifts to working with women, looking at gender issues, being sensitive to the issues around patriarchy. So we have now moved our work to cover the whole LGBT spectrum. We have to. That's one. There's no other way, because otherwise you're not doing your work. That's one. But I do see a change in narrative.
Okay.
You see, the first narrative was about the rights of men like me who are heavily marginalized, oppressed, and the first book on gay writing in India has a chapter of mine called The Contract of Silence. That the fact, like I told you, Waka, that I spoke, it became a revolutionary act, and we became visible. But now what is happening is they are shifting this framework, and there are books which say that don't talk about HIV and STIs among gay men, because that is introducing that gay men are diseased population. But you cannot run away from the reality that gay men are 20% likely to become sick, to commit suicide, to be mentally depressed. All these things are facts. This is the reason, because they affect the lives of women. And if you do not deal with this, you can't say we'll only deal with the human rights of gay men. That is nonsense. You have to look deeper. And if it is so, then you must face it. So I see this very clear change in narrative going on, that don't talk about the HIV issue. Push it away. Talk only about the human rights framework. But right from the beginning, human rights are rights to health. The right to health is also a human right. If you as a woman do not get entry to a clinic, the first Mary Stopes clinic was in Lucknow, then what is the use if you don't have a right to this? In a lot of places, Pakistan, you have to have a man with you to be treated. What is this? I condemn this even in India, but in any country that is patriarchal, where women do not have a right to health, then what kind of human right is it? So I do not accept the fact that rights to health for gay men are not a human right, and we mustn't speak about it. I hope.
No, that absolutely does. No, my question to Onir would be perhaps along similar lines, which is, Onir, where are the producers who should basically be making a beeline? So let's have more queer-friendly cinema. Where is the money?
That's after the verdict, I thought, the phone will start ringing. It's not yet started.
It hasn't?
Yeah. But I feel that there are certain positive things happening with the digital space coming in, that slowly, very cautiously, because see, it's a very a medium of art which is very expensive, and mostly producers.
Can I just very quickly interrupt you? What about making films now? You've got the web series. You've got, so that's like a smaller.
So that's what I mean by the LGBT, the digital space. But whether you're making for digital space, these are it's an expensive medium. You're not just making it for yourself, and not a home video. And it's a medium that mostly the producers and the studios are guided not by their sense of what is important also to do, but it's only money. It's what will make the box office, work.
So
and
nobody's
that's
willing
why,
to take a risk?
I mean, some people right now want to, and that's why I feel that, only for doing the right thing for, it's a
Political
tokenism,
correctness.
but I don't feel that coming from within. And that happens with all minorities. I mean, if you see how mostly women are portrayed in films, even now, now slowly things are changing, but it's taken so many years. You don't have a male item number still happening. Someday maybe, But so it's a long way off, But I see, of course, there is. I won't be totally. Otherwise, I always want to be hopeful. I think the digital space is opening up. but very cautiously, and still like what budgets you would get would be, it's just like how women are fighting for equal pay. Similarly, I think anything which is LGBT story, we have to also fight for that.
Yeah. About the visibility of the trans person, say for example, visibility of the trans women, where do you think the media is getting the narrative wrong? What are the things that the media is doing that the media should not be doing to increase greater visibility of the trans person, trans women, trans men? What is it that the media is doing wrong?
Media is totally doing everything wrong, you know.
So,
Okay, so at time, what happens with the media is, nowadays the media, I really wonder, 10 years ago media was different and now media is different. Media has been the biggest friend and at times the biggest enemy also. And when you see today's generation, interviewers and everything, everybody wants spoon feeding, or they are Google journalism they do, and that is scary. The Google journalism is so irritating. Otherwise, you have to do. I mean, then as an activist, you have to become a journalist also. You know, you should have the whole.
so are you saying there's very little research now? It's very quick.
No, no. Everybody that wants everything spoon feeding.
Yeah.
Yeah, आप भेज दो हम छाप देंगे. Or they will twist and turn, and if you don't do, they will print something really very shitty stuff, you know. And then the media, see, every transgender is not a sex worker.
No.
Every transgender is not a beggar. Every transgender is not doing the traditional work. There has been now so much of change, and first also change was there. That is never coming up very clearly out. One kind of storyline is set in the brains that they have to be loud. Of course, I'm at Bharatanatyam. I'm little bit loud, you know, according to my norms. Yeah, but I've settled down, right, no, Mama? Yeah, I've settled down a lot. See, at least I'm covered now. Otherwise, yeah. So it is like that. And then there is so many things. Trans men are vanished.
Total invisibility of trans men.
Yesterday I was there and I met this very big editor of a men's magazine. I said, why don't you do a complete, what we say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Why don't you do this complete story on trans men? And I will give you 10 trans men in India who are so different. Now recently, there is so much of whole kind of evaluation about the entire trans community, but they don't want to, and there is subgroups in the trans community which is never ever spoken, whether it is Shiv Shaktis, Joktis, Yogappas, you know, all these things never come up, and that is the saddest part. I believe the media today, and especially these serials, I really love one serial which has come up very strongly, but that serials also has Sati something, this koi to bhi chal raha hai on Hindi channel. One serial about a transgender and a man is in love. But what drama, mein, Ekta Kapoor should get back to reality. She made all the daughter-in-laws and the mother-in-laws dressed up in sleeping. In midnight also your lipstick is perfect. This fashion. And now she wants to even, you know, exploit the trans community girls also. Excuse it, you know. Why... that narrative has to change. When you talk about mainstreaming, when you talk about dignity, when you want to be inclusive society, then learn that inclusiveness. It cannot be just sitting on this podium or in your AC rooms on a cup of tea. Oh, why they beg, why they clap, why they strip. What has the society done yet? Even after the verdict of 2014. Though even Bengal has the transgender welfare board,
yes,
but how effective it is, that is the question. What is so many years of the transgender welfare board, what it has brought the social change in the society? Okay, today I went this year for Durga Puja, I went for the Shindur Khela in Pavai, which is the biggest mandap of that. Fine, that is there. Change is coming slowly. Okay, change is inevitable and it will happen. But it shouldn't happen sitting on the Google Baba network or anything. The reality, lives are not on Google. Life has to be felt, understood. It's all about human lives.
At which point we are going to open up the discussion to the audience. So if there are microphones, cordless microphones that are available, we are going to take questions from the audience, please. So could members of the audience please raise their hands, and then a microphone will be passed around to wherever you are. Okay, so while the audience is forming questions, this is again sort of a general question to all the panelists, in the sense that, you know, this is again about visibility and about the mainstreaming of the LGBT sort of population. I have reservations about the whole sort of verb mainstreaming. What does that entail? I mean, when I talk about mainstreaming of the LGBT community, what do you understand by that, and how do you think that can be accomplished? And at what levels as well?
Professor Nilade, I think that's a misnomer, that whole thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. We were always part of the mainstream. We had to talk, you see, and make ourselves visible. This being part of the social landscape had been invisibilized during the colonial times. If you look at Professor Muralidharan from Kerala, I think Thrissur, he has written a fantastic paper. I don't think it's a PhD thesis, but it's a very learned scholarly paper, how the LGBT was invisibilized during the freedom struggle. I think before, some of the lectures that I saw about the bai and the courtesan, for example, there were specific instructions from Congress leaders that men should not do Bharatanatyam. You know, because it's an effeminate art. You see, there was I think in many cases, a lot of the Marxists blame Vivekananda for it, but I'm not very sure of that. But the fact is that India was seen as a soft culture, effeminate culture, which was easily conquered by the masculine cultures that came from the Kaiba. And it doesn't make much sense, because there was much more homosexuality that time in Afghanistan than here. You know, Sir Richard Burton, I mean, says it. If you read his books, The Girdle of Eros, the Kama Sutra itself is a concoction. He said it was published from Banaras. He published it in, he got the Kama Sutra copy, the first copy, in a brothel in Karachi. Okay? So all these things, the way the British made it, was that this was an effeminate culture. There's this huge narrative that is being used, sadly, by a lot of Indian historians about how the Rani of Jhansi's husband, for example, was sitting, he used to cross-dress, he used to wear saris. And the British resident, who now has been concocted as having invited for sex with the Rani of Jhansi, I don't know from where that has come. It's amazing the amount our society is infiltrated by all this sort of rubbish. But wait. Yeah, it says that the British resident tells the Jhansi's ruler that, why are you wearing this women's dress? It does not look good to your people. You're wearing bangles, you're wearing a sari, and you're wearing a wig and everything, and you're sitting in the palace. Everybody's seeing you. Indians were not condemning it, but the British resident condemns it. So I think it is his name is Gangadhar. Gangadhar Raja says to the British resident, I am wearing bangles, but the whole of India is wearing bangles in front of you. It's a sad thing that he's making fun of femininity, but that was the only way he could reply to the British. The reason for imposing Section 377 was because the British officers could not get into the Red Fort. The whole bureaucracy of the Red Fort was in the hands of Kinnar. And the first case under Section 377 was not against us. It was the princess against Khairunisa. Khairunisa was a eunuch who was taken to the police station on totally concocted charges, and they said that she was habituated to anal sex. So, as I told you, Section 377 is about sex, not about love.
We have a question. We have a question there.
Yeah, 1 minute. Khairunisa she had to stand up in court like that and see the police saying these things about her. the judge laughed that case and threw it out of court.
Great. Yeah.
So the first case was under this section was thrown out, and we had it on our heads for 100 years. Nobody says anything in this country. It's only Justice Indu Malhotra said that the country needs to apologize to the LGBT community.
History.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Sorry.
So we have a
yes.
question. We've got a couple of questions. So, yeah.
My question is to Ashok ji, and I'd want your comments on which were the groups which actually opposed Section 377, the decriminalization in court, and also the complete change in stance, especially of the Hindu right wing. The RSS has come out in support. Do you see that as a tactical measure? Do you see it as as actually a return to the roots where in Hindu society
Vikram, you want to make me a right winger and the whole left bloc baying for my blood, which they do. I have said again and again, the change in narrative is essentially a change to hide the change of attitudes in Hindu society in general. We know that the people opposing this, even Supreme Court, are the Christians and the Muslim groups. Nobody wants to talk about it because it becomes, this Islamophobia. The fact is they have openly opposed it. In the Northeast, they say they will not obey the Supreme Court judgment. I suppose the CPM Chief Minister in Kerala will understand what he's doing with Sabarimalai. Sabarimalai is also a queer space where at a certain time only men were allowed. He's a cantankerous god. Our gods are like that. They're cantankerous. They only want one type of food. That sort of thing. Why are you going and changing the laws there? And why are you accepting the fact that the actual official apostolic church in Northeast is saying we will not obey the laws? Why is the ulema openly opposing it and none of the activists from the LGBT movement is calling them out? There was a queer Muslim group there, but you may not understand it, Hindu groups are not allowed to talk about sexuality at many of the pride meetings. You see? So there is a movement to whitewash and blacklist any talk of what is happening in the indigenous faith systems. They're not only talking of Hinduism.
We have two
Buddhism, no Buddhist leader has opposed it. No Jain leader has opposed it. There's total silence from others, Why is it that is not being called? It's only Hindu Brahminical patriarchy that you're calling out? This is hypocrisy. Look, I am saying that we will not accept too much imposition of religion into secular politics and the politics of this land. But you cannot demonize us this way. We will fight back. And the next year, we will see.
We've got a question from the front and then one from the third row. So yeah.
My question is to On Air. So how much do you think is the queer representation in Indian cinema changed the perspective of the society? Now that we see a lot of queer filmmakers making films on the subject.
Who are they?
That's your answer. I don't see that it's radically suddenly changed, and there's lots of filmmakers who, first of all, are talking about their identities. There's a lot more who are still not talking about their identities. And neither do I see in mainstream cinema. You'll see in a year hardly one. Like, for example, Sridhar has recently made a film called Evening Shadows, and it's been struggling for more than a year. It's gone to, I don't know, hundreds of film festivals, won awards.
This is Sridhar Rangayan.
Yes,
Sridhar
but his
Rangayan.
film does not find a release. So I feel that it's just like I'm saying, it all sounds hunky-dory to say that, let's release it on digital space. But what he will get for that, the finances involved, will be peanuts compared to what the film is. So unfortunately today, even most of the web platforms, they value your film according to how it performs on box office. And if you're a filmmaker who still loves cinema, you want to see your film first in a theater and not directly on a mobile phone, And that will take time, because you still have people who are conscious, especially men, if they know it's a film which has gay characters, to go and watch, because they're afraid of how they will be perceived by
The people who
other
are seeing
friends
them enter the cinema
around.
halls.
Because I remember,
Not only gay, even hijra films
yeah,
are made.
absolutely, yeah. But
Yeah, well, I think I think we've just got time for one question, so yeah.
Good evening. I am referring to something that Lakshmi ma'am at one point had observed, that originally the whole community, the whole spectrum, when they started were united, and now she is noticing maybe casteism or something has changed in the last 2 years. My question is that do you think now it is being politicized? The reason that I'm saying is, now that the Indian government has officially given you the status of Indian citizens with equal rights, the politicians have noticed, yes, this is a vote bank. And in fact, the first step to mainstreaming is politicians realizing that this is a major community and this is a vote bank. Is this mainlining?
I think, very quickly, just 2, 3, I think there is a concerted attempt to splinter the movement. There are organizations that are funding splintering the movement. They do not want solidarity. This whole business of changing it to love, it's not love. Our identity is based on sex and sexuality and gender. To say that it's love, love comes, but sex is the basis on which this judgment has come. So there is a concerted attempt at splintering the movement. There is a concerted attempt at whitewashing certain early trends of how the movement was shaping up. And there's a concerted attempt by particular people to break the movement and take over the leadership.
Or is it divide and rule?
Of course, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm telling you,
Okay,
I don't want to use the British
final
phrase.
comments from Lakshmi before we round up the session.
I don't know. For them, it may be a different narrative. But from the rightest of the rightest politician and to the most secular, I have all in my bag. Right from RSS supporting me, to BJP supporting me, to Congress respecting my work. I don't know. I have not worked with CPM, so I don't know how are they. You know, Brinda Kharat is CPM? Yes. Yeah, she has copied my bindi. Okay, so that itself it is. So I don't know about it. I believe that the new generation, this whole entire movement, now it has become that it has become a competition for everybody, that we are the first one who have done it. Okay, fine, you have done it. But the movement itself is dying somewhere, because see today, what even he is telling, it is the funding mechanism and how outside forces are using their dollars and their money, and how some people for their own benefit and for their own power and for their own bank balance are exploiting the entire ideology what was started with, is sad. Come on, today we go to a pride and where you see all these banners. It is sad for me. It's fine, you can hold a flag card on my face saying that a Brahminical patriarchy, what was that? Smash Brahmin patriarchy. I said, fine, I'm a Brahmin that I am, but I'm a Hijra. My parents come from Gorakhpur. There was a time where honor killing is also there in my community. I'm a Brahmin. We are to be wiped out, but my parents stood strong. We never fought on the basis on any caste, any religion. We all were one. Today we have Kinnar Akhada. The best of, I don't know, but the political world have been totally supporting us. But one thing is also very important. As LGBTIQ community should understand how to talk to the government, how to talk to the bureaucracy. This art is dying. And it's necessary that leaders, and I was successful in that, you know, and I'm successful with the most of the and Kinnar Akhada. For me, I can be at a secular place, I can be to the most conservative place, and still I can be in Sant Sabha and talk about everything, and still I can raise voice and say it's my right. It's good to be lesbian, it's good to be gay, it's good to marry.